Hello everyone. In the last video, we explored the Kubernetes architecture, the control plane, and the node components. Now it's time to get hands-on with the smallest building block in Kubernetes, which is the pod. So in this video, we'll create, inspect, debug, and access a live pod right in the Docker desktop environment. So before getting started, I'll give you a quick intro about what pod is. So pod is the smallest deployable unit in Kubernetes. You can think it as a wrapper which has one or more containers that share the same network, same storage volume, same lifecycle. In this picture, if you see, we have a single pod running on a node, and the pod is having two containers. So a pod can have one or more than one containers running in it. Pods are basically ephemeral. They can die and be recreated. So it's rarely we manage pods in production environment manually. So it is done using deployment. But understanding pod is essential before we move ahead. Now let's start by creating a pod. So we can create pod imperatively and also using declarative way. So I'll show you the imperative command. Using kubectl, we can run this command, kubectl run nginx pod image nginx 1.27. So by running this command, it will create a pod with name nginx-pod, which will be having an image of Nginx and running on port 80. So for that, let me quickly open a terminal. Okay. Let me see if the Docker is running. Oops. Yeah. So kubectl run nginx pod hyphen image. So here we specify the image of the container. So we'll be using nginx 1.27 Alpine version hyphen port 80. So it says the pod has been created. Now let me do a kubectl get pods minus n. Okay, I don't want to have default namespace. So by default, it will be creating that namespace default here. Yeah, you can see the Nginx pod is running here. Now let's inspect this pod and explore it. So for that, first I'll use the kubectl describe pod command, kubectl describe pod nginx-pod. Yeah. So if you see, we have the name Nginx pod running in default namespace. And if I scroll down, we have the image Nginx 1.27 Alpine version running on port 80. Yeah. And if you scroll down, we have the events here, which says successfully assigned default Nginx pod to Docker desktop, pulling image. So these are the events when the pod was created. So all looks good. Now let's check the logs of the pod also. kubectl logs nginx pod. Yeah, so we can see the logs for this specific pod. We have the nginx version here. Now let's try to get inside the pod using kubectl exec command. So we'll use kubectl exec minus it nginx and the name of the pod hyphen sh. Yeah, so I'm inside the pod now. Let me do a uname if it works. Yeah, it is. And we'll do an ls. Okay, we can see the files inside the pod. Yeah, that's how we are inside the container shell. Okay, let me come out of the pod by running exit command. Done. So normally pods don't have public IP, so we will use pod forwarding to access the pod locally. So the command will be kubectl pod forward pod/pod name. Then we have the forward local port, which is 8080, and 80 will be the port, which is inside the cluster. So we can see that the forwarding is working now or active now. Let's test this using, I'll open a different terminal. Now let's do a curl on localhost 8080. We should get, yeah, the Nginx page. Yeah, so that's working. Now let's create the pod using declarative way. So for that, we need a YAML file. So this is how it looks like. I can show you the documentation for Kubernetes. So the Kubernetes documentation is having more in-depth parameters or all the necessary things which we can go through. So for now, let's take the basic YAML file. So if you see here, we have the API version v1, the kind is pod. Then in metadata, we have the name given. So this is having one container, which is Nginx, and this is the image. Then we have the port number. So let me copy this, go to terminal. Let me close this connection. We'll create sample pod.yaml. We'll paste this here, save it. Now let me run. Okay, so before that, since we already have one pod running, let me delete that pod, or I'll rename this pod. So here, yeah, this looks okay because the one which we created was having name nginx-pod. So let me give nginx pod 2. Done. Now I'll do kubectl apply -f and the file name. Yeah, the pod has been created. Let me do a kubectl get pods. Yeah, so the container is creating. Now it's running. Let me describe this pod also. Kubectl describe pod nginx-pod 2. Yeah, so you can see the pod name here. And if you notice the image name, so we previously used a different version. So this is again a different version, but that doesn't matter. This is mostly focused on what the declarative and the imperative command looks like. Yeah, so in this video, we have created pods both imperatively and with YAML. We have checked logs, jumped inside the container, and also accessed it locally. That's it for now. In the next video, we will set up deployments, how Kubernetes manage multiple pods automatically, handle scaling, self-heals when one goes down. So we'll be discussing more on Kubernetes deployments and other stuffs in coming videos. So see you in the next one. Thank you.